Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Dole Institute of Politics. I'm Bill Lacey, the director. For those of you who come to programs very often here, you'll know that we usually begin with a student advisory board welcome. Well, since this is a student advisory board program, we begin tonight with a director's welcome. So thank you all for being part of it. When I came here 7 years ago, there was very little student involvement at the Dole Institute. And one of the things that we really set out to do is to get more and more students involved every year. We now have a very active student advisory board, and we do student programs virtually every semester. And tonight is the fall semester student-oriented program. Let me point out a couple of upcoming programs that you might want to be aware of. First of all, our study groups start back up again next week on Tuesday or Wednesday. If you're interested in tonight's subject, you will definitely be interested in our program on October 26th at 7:30 p.m. with someone that the BBC calls one of the foremost authorities on Islam in the world, Dr. Akbar Ahmed. That will be, again, 7:30 on the 26th of October. And then on the 7th of November, a very interesting program. We'll have proponents and opponents of the national popular vote, actually electing president with a popular vote as opposed to the Electoral College. So please do take advantage of that. A couple of quick announcements. If everyone would, please turn off your cell phones. We will have a Q&A session after the panelists are finished tonight. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Somebody will bring a cordless mic by so that you can ask that question so we can get that on our video. And we do ask that you ask a single question. One of the things that is so wonderful about my job is getting to work with students. And we have, and I'm going to get to introduce a person who's really done a great job as our coordinator of our student advisory board. He helped organize the program tonight. He's deeply involved in everything that we do here at the Dole Institute. He does an outstanding job. His name is Andrew Toth. Andrew, come on up.
Welcome everybody to the Dole Institute tonight. Thank you so much for coming to our Student Advisory Board program. My name is Andrew Toth. I'm the coordinator of the Student Advisory Board, also known as the SAB. The SAB is the official student group of the Dole Institute of Politics. It's open to anyone. Everyone can join, and there are some really great perks to go along with being a member of the SAB, such as you get to help out with all of our programming here at the Dole Institute. You get to meet our guests behind the scenes. You get to potentially get a job or an internship even from the people you meet out here. So if you're interested in joining the Dole Institute Student Advisory Board, come see me after the program, or just check us out on Facebook or at the on the website, doleinstitute.org. The SAB is co-sponsoring tonight's program with the Muslim Student Association at KU. I just want to thank you all for allowing us to work with you tonight. It's an honor, and it's really great to be able to work with you all on this program. Tonight's program will be a panel discussion about life for KU students who are Muslims, and I'd like to introduce the panelists that we have tonight. We have three panelists who are all SAB members on my right, your left side of the panel here. They are going to be asking the questions tonight. On the far right, we have Nick Sambaluk, who's a doctoral candidate in military American and international relations history. He contributes to the University Daily Kansan's opinion and entertainment pages. He joined the Student Advisory Board in 2010, and he received his master's in Middle East history at the University of North Texas. Next to Nick is Alex Heiler. She's a junior studying chemical engineering. This past spring, she studied abroad at the University of Stuttgart in Germany. She joined the Student Advisory Board in the fall of 2009, and she's from Lawrence, Kansas. Our third SAB member is Raymond Tsang. He's a freshman from Wichita, Kansas. He's majoring in political science. He's involved as well with the Multicultural Scholars Program, and he joined the Student Advisory Board in 2011. The next three people are all members of the Muslim Student Association. Sitting next to Raymond is Ibrahim Alankar. He's a senior in architectural engineering involved in the Muslim Student Association as well as the Islamic Center of Lawrence. He's originally from Gaza City, Palestine, but grew up in Dubai. Next to Ibrahim, we have Aisha Kincaid, who's a junior majoring in business supply chain management as well as Islamic and Arabic studies. She serves as treasurer of the Muslim Student Association, and I must say she's also a member of the Student Advisory Board. She's from Wichita, Kansas. Last, we have Garrett Fugate, who's a senior majoring in architecture. He's a member of the Muslim Student Association, and he's from St. Louis, Missouri. So without further ado, I welcome you and open the panel discussion. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started just by, if you would, describe your backgrounds a bit. Give us some biographical or autobiographical information.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Ibrahim Alankar. As it was said, I am originally from Gaza City, but I grew up in Dubai. So I grew up most of my life in a Muslim country, learning, I guess, Islam from the city of there. And then I came to KU. It was the first time for me to come to the U.S. as well in 2007. It's a pretty interesting experience. So.
My name is Aisha Kincaid. I'm an American Muslim. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. Not all of my family members necessarily practice Islam, so I didn't quite grow up with the Islamic traditions. However, from a very young age, I knew that I was Muslim.
I'm Garrett Fugate. I am also an American Muslim. Although I was raised a Christian, I was raised as an Orthodox Christian, and 4 years ago I decided to convert to Islam. So that's pretty much me. I grew up in St. Louis. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we are all individuals and we are influenced by our own upbringing. So can you please describe how your family feels about your being at KU and your Muslim choices?
Okay. Me, as a person coming from a Muslim majority country, the decision to come to the United States, where the vast majority are non-Muslims, was a pretty important decision to me and my family. It's a different world for me. It was the first time for me to leave the Muslim environment, basically. I traveled a lot, but all to Muslim countries. So it was quite an experience that I came here and then see how am I going to be able to practice my faith, what people are going to think about me, and then what am I going to be experiencing like here in the U.S. What's the cultural shock? Is it going to be any? And if it's going to be there, and how big is it? I mean, is it going to affect me? Will it change my understanding of my faith, my culture, my things? So it was a very important decision for me and my family. I took it, and it's pretty awesome.
My story probably isn't as interesting as his. It's just like any typical American story. My family had high expectations for me. They were actually very excited because I was, I am first generation college student. And just like any other family, they were happy and excited that I was, going off to college, while at the same time they were kind of nervous about sending me away. Granted, Wichita is only 2.5 hours away. They were still, begging me to stay in Wichita and go to WSU, but I'm here and they enjoy it, and they're always bragging, like, yeah, my niece, nephew, daughter goes to KU, so they love it.
My family was, I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
My family was really excited for me to come to KU. My mom thought it was really funny that I ended up in Kansas. I never thought about going to the University of Kansas. I always thought about staying in St. Louis because I was pretty close to my family and everything. And another surprise for my mom and my dad also was changing my religion as well. So I guess your parents expect you to, preserve who you are, your heritage and your identity and everything like that. But at the same time, when I came to college, you kind of try to discover who you are in terms of your belief, your your character and your personality. And for me, this time period was about finding out who I am. So for me, that resulted in becoming Muslim.
So how did you end up coming to Kansas? That's just what I was curious. Like, are you not curious?
Kansas is kind of random. I came here because of the architecture program, actually. So I got accepted into the Masters of Architecture program here, which is a pretty good program. I got accepted into another architecture program in Missouri, but KU was far better and a bit more challenging too. So that's what brought me here.
Actually, Garrett touches on a really interesting point. That what kind of pushed me to come to the U.S., especially KU. My father studied in the U.S. He studied in Michigan, and he liked the experience, the college life experience, and he wanted me to experience it. The fact that I'm out of constraints of anything, you know. The college culture here in the U.S. Allows you to go and discover everything you want, anything you want, and everything is available to you for you to go and ask. I came here, obviously, go and ask about the sciences and education and stuff. But one of the things that influenced me a lot is the fact that I started questioning myself. You know, like, okay, I grew up in a Muslim country, so you know I've been practicing things because you know that's what the country is doing.
Oh, it's kind of like, am I doing this because it's a norm, like the normative thing to do, or am I doing this because like
Exactly.
this is what I really want to do?
Exactly. So I started like kind of re-studying, you know, what I believe in or what I practice. Like, why am I doing this? You know, does it make sense? This and that. So I started going, and also started visiting churches, synagogues. I want to see why are they different and how are they different? Are they really different? What are the similarities and differences between the religions? And it's I'm really happy that actually I had a chance to do this. I look with my friends every time I go to Dubai visit my friends. I always tell them, I wish you guys go outside and see and experience. Life is very, very big, and there's so many things to experience and ask and know about. And I was one of the few lucky people that had the chance to actually get this experience. So.
As a Muslim, I understand that you are supposed to pray 5 times a day. And do you schedule your classes around prayer time?
Well,
occasionally, I guess.
I think what it is, it's not necessarily like, Duhur is this time, which is the midday prayer, and so there's a class at that same time, so I can't take that class. It's more like, okay, well, I have class at this time, I need to pray at this time. When am I going to be able to pray in between classes? More that kind of thing. Juma is a different story. I don't know about you guys, because, well, even though I know it's obligatory for you. Juma is Friday services. It's the Friday prayer, the congregational prayer, and it's 1:30 every Friday. Me, I'm the kind of person that I will not, I don't want to miss Juma for anything. So I try to schedule my Friday classes so that I don't miss Juma, or I try to not have Friday classes at all. Luckily I have been able to manage that, but I feel like if it ever became a time where I would miss Juma, I would try to talk to my professors to work around that so that I can make Juma, because that's one of the prayers that I find that's really important, because that's the only time that we pray every week in a congregation. So yeah, that's for me. I don't know about.
I think it's the same thing with me. It's not so much like, I don't want class during this time period because I want to pray the midday prayer. Classes only last about maybe an hour or 90 minutes. So usually that's not going to span the entire time you can pray that prayer. So you can pray either before or after.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we pray 5 times a day according to the rotation of the sun. So for the midday prayer, it's at a certain time, and then you have from that time until the next prayer, which is the evening prayer, to do your midday prayer. But generally, it's better to pray as soon as you can. But you still have that time period of praying. So
yeah, and you don't have to do it like in the mosque. You can pray anywhere, which is clean and quiet. So every time. Me in engineering, I just go find a corner and just pray with my friends or by myself. But Friday, because it's the week service, and usually we pray it in the mosque, and So we try to just schedule classes around Juma, but but the rest of the days, I guess, it's very flexible. So.
Y'all have addressed praying, and beyond that, do you find it particularly challenging to meet your religious obligations in a predominantly non-Muslim society, particularly things like dietary requirements?
Well, I'm one of the people that only eats zabiha, and that's Islamically slaughtered meat. So I don't necessarily find it, well, the only time that it's really difficult to kind of fulfill that is when I want a hamburger, because like I'm not gonna go to the underground and grab like a burger or something like that. It has to be, halal or zabiha. So most of the time I'm eating vegetarian or like fish or something. But I mean, I don't really mind it. I don't think it's that big of a deal to, not eat a burger. All my friends.
I mean, I haven't faced such a big difficulty as is a question maybe as. The only thing is sometimes when I hang out with my friends or something, if obviously in Islam we cannot eat pork or alcohol or drink alcohol. So if they're going to party or stuff like that, I generally do not go because I know there's alcohol involved and stuff like that. But besides that, I mean, no pork, no alcohol, everything is fine. And actually, it's kind of interesting. Stores like Walmart and McDonald's are getting more and more of the halal products, which is pretty interesting. That the industry started recognizing, okay, there's a segment of the society, the Muslims, they have certain requirements in their food.
It's a new market we can enter into. To
it's
make
a new
money.
market, so we can enter and get more people to buy our product, which is pretty good. Like for example, when we read about the halal thing in McDonald's. A lot of us maybe, or some of the students do not eat McDonald's because they say, oh, it's not the healthiest option. But just for the fact that McDonald's is trying to bring halal into the menu, a lot of people are going to go to like, okay, you know what, I'm going to take that because this is a better option for me. I know that maybe McDonald's main purpose is obviously money and business, but it does have a big social influence.
And I feel like business kind of is an avenue to create like this melting pot. Not necessarily like, oh yeah, the Muslims, they're okay, they're good people, but in the sense that the business world, because we're another marketing segment that they can make money off of, it sounds kind of bad, but I mean it's true. They're willing to kind of reach out to this group of people and kind of bring them in and like incorporate them into the society by creating conveniences for them, for lack of a better way of phrasing that. And I feel that kind of helps create an avenue or a bridge in a weird way to kind of bring Muslims into the American society.
Well, the interesting thing.
I feel the same way. Like the part of St. Louis I'm from is, I think about half my school was Jewish. So I was exposed to a lot of Jewish traditions as well. And going to the grocery store and stuff, they always had like the kosher aisle. So when I see the same thing like in Kansas City or in a grocery store here in Lawrence, it makes me feel kind of like we're being accepted in this part of society.
Like you're a part of the community.
Exactly, yeah.
And I mean, I know some people say, okay, the business main goal is obviously to make money, but America, it's a country that big part of the culture here is consumption. Whether you agree with it or not, but this is what I guess Americans' life goes on. So for businesses, the fact that they are the ones that take the first step and introduce the Islamic things. For example, I remember my friends calling me, said, "Oh, Abraham, Best Buy is saying Happy Eid." Eid is like
our celebration,
our
holiday. Yeah.
They were just so happy, and they actually saw the signs, everything that says, "Oh, Happy Eid." That people were like, okay, this is great. And most, I bet half of my friends just went there to Best Buy just to see that sign. It's pretty interesting. The fact that, they took the initiative to do that. And, like, for example, Christmas and Hanukkah, people say, oh, the main purpose for the business is to sell products. True. But the fact that they're showing it and they're trying to celebrate it while taking the money from your pockets puts that in our minds, and then builds the culture that, okay, there's something called Christmas, which the Christians celebrate, and Hanukkah, the Jews celebrate. When they start putting Eid, Happy Ramadan, it's in our brains, you know, like slowly we'll have the fact that, okay, there's something also Ramadan that Muslims celebrate.
It's like you're being accepted into the community.
Exactly. So.
Perfect. Well, piggybacking right off of that topic, America is often referred to as a melting pot. Do you agree with this statement? And how about particularly KU? Is KU a melting pot?
I think it's definitely a melting pot. I mean, I've met people from all over the world here, just classmates. I mean, I remember in my studio class, my teacher was from Quebec. Her native language was French.
Quebec?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's from Quebec.
Okay.
And then
sorry.
we had a TA too, and he was Armenian, and I was like, never met an Armenian, you know, and
Oh, wow.
my classmates themselves, you know, from all over the Middle East, Africa, Europe. So it's very cool to meet people from different cultures and backgrounds. So
Do you think that just being able to meet people from different cultures and different backgrounds constitutes being a melting pot?
I think so, because they're exposed to different ideas on how to live, especially with religion as well too. So you get exposed to different ways of believing and different lifestyles.
Okay, because I know my approach to that question is a little different. I feel like it's more about not necessarily just being around the different backgrounds, because yeah, that gives you the opportunity to learn about different people and to gain more knowledge and experience, but at the same time doesn't necessarily mean that you're a melting pot in the sense that you can come together and, you know, live together in a particular, you know, society, even though you have these differences.
Right.
Like,
I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother thing, actually.
Yeah.
Whether or not we can actually live together in harmony.
Yeah, that's actually one of the interesting things. Before coming here, I know people say, "Oh, America is the melting pot of the world." When I came, it didn't seem like the melting pot. It seems that, you know, the minorities that maybe do not 100% agree with, you know, the general acceptable traditions are isolated. So I'm going to say, maybe for the Muslims, for example, I'll say, for example, the media or anything, if anything bad happens in the world, the first thing that the pinpoints go to the Muslims. And it's kind of sometimes feel that, you know, the American culture is trying to not segregate,
Or like demonize.
maybe something like that, or put that minority, whether Muslims or any other culture or minority, a little bit away. So not really like, you know, melting everything. They're
like
actually, you know, like, okay, we're melting some things, but there's some minorities. Some are Muslims, some are maybe other ethnicities that, you know, they're not in the mixture, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't feel the melting pot as people describe it outside the US. It's more.
Yeah, I feel like, and it also depends on where you're at, because I feel like the attitude towards Muslim in Lawrence here at KU is a lot better than some other places in the U.S.
That's true.
I feel like I'm very comfortable here. I don't ever feel like people are judging me, or I don't ever get afraid that, you know, someone's going to say something inappropriate or disrespectful to me because of, you know, me being a Muslim and me wearing hijab. I feel very comfortable here, but I know there are other places in the U.S. where that's not necessarily the case. And I feel like it's like that because here you do have a lot of people, and people here are a bit more, I guess, quote unquote liberal. I hate using those kind of like generalizations and stuff like that, but I mean, it helps sometimes in explaining things. But yeah, I agree with you as far as it almost seems like people don't or can't in their mind associate Islam with America. Like it's something that's foreign to be an American, or it's something that's foreign to this particular culture and society. So as far as being a melting pot, I feel like, yeah, we have this melting pot of, you know, what America says it's okay for you to like come here and be and have this, you know, your particular background, while at the same time, you know, this group of people, you can't necessarily join this melting pot, at least not just yet. And I feel like there's a lot of cultures that came here as minorities that have that problem. And through time, over time, they finally become accepted. So I guess we're like in the melting pot, but we're not quite melted yet, if that makes any sense. So.
Well, I think in America, the melting pot kind of means that you also assimilate as well.
Yeah.
So either, I mean, this is where you come into a lot of conflict with religion, because people who choose to live according to their religion, they clash with the American lifestyle, where the general consensus in America is, it's okay to be different, but you should assimilate to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And sometimes you run into problems with this. So I feel in a sense that sometimes Americans have to meet certain criteria, and Muslim isn't always one of them. So like all the talk about Obama being Muslim or something, there's people in my family who think like for sure that he's Muslim.
And like, why is that a problem?
Yeah, like,
Exactly.
how does that affect? Like
Actually,
people sometimes ask, "Are you? Can you be American and Muslim?"
It's like,
And you're like, "Well, Islam is a religion, and America
I am
is,
American.
How does that conflict?"
Yeah, actually, like a lot of people were saying, okay, he's not Muslim because of this and this and this. And then I believe it was Colin Powell who said, he's definitely not Muslim, but if he was, what's the big deal? It's kind of like having a Catholic president, with John F. Kennedy, always going to be loyal to the Pope. So, of course, that wasn't the case, He has his religion, and Obama would have his, whatever it would be.
So.
The next question is, what effect does commercialization and global business have on Muslim people?
It kind of contributes to that melting pot because it brings people, or at least I feel like the business world is like the group of people that's more willing to reach out to people. And I feel like it's very important as far as bringing people together, is being able to reach out to different groups of people. Granted, the reason why they want to reach out to different groups of people is because they want to make money, but still at the same time it gives us exposure, and it kind of puts us in this light that isn't a light that's demonizing us. Rather, it's a light that's trying to show acceptance and saying you are welcomed here, you are accepted because we are willing to provide services for you or provide conveniences for you. You know what I mean? Like, is it?
And sometimes not necessarily for money reasons. I mean, I remember during the time when the priest in Florida was attempting to burn copies of the Quran. The first channel that came on TV, that's and they just did not like that, and they said, okay, no for hatred, no for that, Muslims are part of us, was amazingly MTV, the music TV. The first ones that came out put an ad that, with a picture of the Quran and said, they are part of us. They are, so hatred is the enemy, it's not the Muslims. And then, other channels like USA Network and stuff, they followed that right away. I don't see any benefit, like money-wise, but it was very pleasing for me as a Muslim to see, there are people out there that they don't like what's going on maybe in Florida, and their reaction was to sympathize, I guess, with us or something. So, the industry, I think, the industry here, especially here in the U.S., has a very, very influential effect. So,
I know that kind
I didn't have anything to add. I think you guys said it all.
Just something random that came in my mind when you were speaking was this whole thing about Islam not being associated with America, or people always, having this idea that it's something foreign to the American culture and society. But, when slaves were here, when we first had, in the U.S. way back when there was slavery, were, the Africans that they were bringing, were they not Muslim? Like, there are people here in the U.S. that have been, generations of Muslims in this country. But at the same time, people always feel like it's foreign, and, immigrants are Muslims, or Islam is something that cannot be a part of this country, when in fact, there were people, here years and years ago that weren't Muslim.
I definitely agree with that. A lot of people think that it's foreign. And looking back at the founding fathers, you have Thomas Jefferson, who had a copy of the Quran, and what was his name? The Muslim senator, when he did his oath, he did it on the Quran. He didn't want to do it on the Bible. And the Quran that he chose to do his oath on was Thomas Jefferson's own copy. And I was like, wow, that makes such a statement that he still has his religion and everything, but he's also making a statement that says, hey, my religion and my background is compatible with me being an American senator, which is really interesting to see.
Y'all not only answered that question, but you also anticipated the next couple. Do want to give you an opportunity, though, to, if there's anything you want to go ahead and say, like on sort of a political note, how did the demonization that we see from some corners of Barack Obama's origin, his father's faith, that sort of thing, the demonization that we see from some corners, how did that make you feel about how Islam is perceived or was perceived a couple of years ago in the United States?
I feel like, I mean, everything that's going on as far as people just going crazy over this idea that, or over the fact that, you know, Barack Obama has family members that are Muslim is just ridiculous, because I mean, why does it matter? Sometimes I'm confused.
Exactly.
It's
So
almost like
frustrating.
unbelievable. Like, really, it matters that his family's Muslim? I mean,
And the best part of it is like they keep on trying to find like proof, like they really go out of their way to
Yeah.
find out, like, oh, look
And
at his
what's that
school
guy?
records, you know, he was labeled as a Muslim in Indonesia, you know, he was labeled as Muslim and he went to a madrasa, you know. It was just an Islamic school and there are Christians that went to that school too. It was like, what?
and the rich guy, I forgot his name, and he was trying to run for president. He had like all this.
Oh, you mean?
Oh, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump,
Like, that is just, why?
They just go out of their way to like, oh, he's not even an American citizen, he can't even vote.
Yeah, and even if you were to prove that, what does that even say? Like, what does that mean? I mean, how is that such a big deal?
So, coming from a Muslim country, the way Muslim countries would probably perceive that people will say, okay, America says in their constitution and stuff that people have the freedom of religion, stuff like that. So why are they mad that Barack Obama might have some Muslim descent? I mean, we have Muslim countries, especially living in a country that have very strong ties, trading ties with the U.S. You know, we start questioning like, okay, they pretend to have freedom of religion, freedom of culture, stuff like that. So why are they bringing these things to the surface? And then our media as well start thinking that in a negative way. It's like, okay, is really America a free country? Is really America is a melting pot? So
Again, I think it goes back to this whole thing that you're only a part of this melting pot, or you're only accepted if you're, you know, you have your culture, you have your background. Yeah, that's recognized and that's good. But as long as you assimilate, then you can be a part of this, you know, this society and this melting pot. But if you're not assimilated, or if you're, you know, too different, then it's not necessarily, you know, it's not something that you would associate with America, even though you have this idea that America is such a diverse country and there's so many cultures and backgrounds. I mean,
yeah, I mean the problem is I try to visit my family once a year or twice a year in Dubai, you know, like, and then hang out with my friends and stuff, and we talk about, you know, life here in the U.S. And the fact that what usually comes in the surface, especially by the media here, is that, you know, there's a big sheer between American identity and Muslim identity, and then people living outside the U.S., that's what they see, you know, because they're not living here and they don't see the daily interactions between us and, you know, the KU community, let's say. What they see is like, okay, CNN says, is Barack Obama Muslim, and why this and that, big deal, and to them, Muslims in the Muslim world, they start questioning. Is really America trying to solve things in the Middle East, for example? Is their involvement really for democracy, or is it, you know, for something else? And then, if America is, you know, kind of does not give the freedom to our brothers and sisters who are living there, why should we, you know, help them? Why should we do this and that? So it affects what's going on here. Does not only affect the Muslims here, it affects the ties to America in general with the world. And that's why, the president, Barack Obama, when he was elected, he came to Egypt and affirmed the strong ties. And people were super happy. They were like, okay, this guy is going to be really good. And then the news about, the priest in Florida comes on the surface, and then the mosque in New York comes on the surface as well. So people are like, what's going on? We're seeing two faces here. The president comes say something, and then the facts or the news, their news, is bringing something different. So that kind of affects a lot.
And then kind of going back to identity, I feel like that's something a lot of Muslims here struggle with. At least I know I do. It's like, I'm an American, I grew up in this country, but at the same time, seeing the things that go on in the news and kind of hearing what people, and like, the demonization of Islam and Muslims, and it's like, where do I fit in this country? Because I feel like sometimes I'm not necessarily accepted, or like a lot of people look at me and they don't associate me with being an American. And like sometimes that's really hurtful, because like I love my country and I'm very patriotic and very proud to be an American. And like the fact that people don't associate me with being an American because of my religion, or I'm outside of this melting pot of America and these great ideas and foundations of America because of my religion, it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And like that's something that I struggle with. It's like, okay, just because I practice this or do this and like I don't fit these norms of being an American, like does that really make me less of an American? And just this, I don't know, is that something you guys struggle with?
Yeah, there's a pressure to be like normal or something, like whatever normal is in America. I mean, theoretically, since we're a melting pot, there shouldn't be any norm, so because we're so diverse. But there's such a emphasis on assimilation. So like, why do you pray 5 times a day? Like your boss isn't going to let you do that, or your boss isn't going to let you grow a beard or wear that hijab, So there's this pressure of assimilating, changing the way you dress, things like that. And I think it comes from, I always think like, okay, why is this a problem? And I think people just don't know what Islam is, I think, and that creates a lot of fear. So when they see somebody dressing differently or believing differently than them and not assimilating, like they expect people to, I think they get afraid because they don't know what this is. And all that they ever hear about Islam is associated with somebody strapping a bomb to them, and terrorism and everything like that. That's all they hear about associated with Islam. Every time they say Islam on the news, there's an image of something blowing up or something, and people are going to make associations, or people with accents and things like that. So Muslims coming from other countries. I mean, you take. There's a comedian that I heard, and he said he kind of made fun of how people view other people with different accents. And he did an Arabic accent of this one conversation, like, oh, we've been playing this so long and everything like that. It has a totally different sound to it when it's in an Arabic accent, because on the news, it just has this negative connotation that, okay, he's going to plant a bomb somewhere. That's the plan,
Yeah,
Whereas like if it's an American accent, it's like, oh, they're going out to eat or something.
We are having tomato tonight.
Exactly.
So.
We're going to go ahead and open it up to your questions for our panel to go ahead and field and answer. So if you would, go ahead and raise your hand with some questions you've got. I see we got one right up here at the front. We've got a couple others on the way as well. Thanks, Quinn.
Thanks. I'm interested in how the two of you decided to change your religion, or to become, I guess,
Muslim.
You're from a partially Muslim family to begin with, but I'm interested in the thought process that takes you from the normal idea of the American melting pot to doing something else. Thank you.
Yeah. It's definitely a change of thought. Do you want to go first, or should I go? Okay. For me, I was raised as a Greek Orthodox Christian, and that was very tied to my heritage and everything like that. So at first, religion for me was a way to connect to my background and my heritage. as a Greek American. But that changed a little. Like in high school, I started taking it as a religion. You know, I was more curious about what these beliefs concerning God and everything, and Jesus. You know, why do we have icons, and why do we do this ritual every day, every Sunday? So asking these questions, learning more about Christianity, and then being exposed to different religions. So at one point, I think what changed my thoughts about religion in general was just saying, okay, there's so many different religions around me, and if religion is just a series of beliefs and the way of life that you choose, then this is something that you can choose yourself. It's a choice. It doesn't depend on your family or your heritage or your background. You know, where I was thinking, okay, I'm just Christian because that's what my heritage is. So for me, it means so much more to choose a religion because I personally believe it in my heart to be true. So I think that was the major change in thought that caused me to look at Islam as a religion to practice. And reading the Quran and just learning about the basics of the faith after that really got me hooked into the religion, and I decided to convert. So that's basically my story in a nutshell.
I wouldn't say that I ever really was a part of any other religion than Islam and being Muslim. My family, they're not very religious. My grandmother, she would go to church from time to time. And when I was younger, I was I was always questioning everything. Like my family, they would be so annoyed with me because I would ask so many questions. When I was in elementary school, I had like a children's Bible, and I would read that, and then there was just, I don't know, like, again, it's, you know, just a children's Bible or whatever, but there was something with that never really clicked with me. But at the same time, I never would call myself Christian or say that I was ever practicing any other religion than Islam and being Muslim. And but even still, from a very, very young age, like I had connections with Islam. Like that was the way that I was going towards. And I knew that I was Muslim, or I knew that I was supposed to be. And then as I got older and was finally able to know and understand Islam and like be able to actually study Islam, and I studied Christianity and Judaism as well. The more I like it, the more it basically, what is the word that I'm looking for? It confirmed, you know, my belief that I was supposed to be Muslim, and you know, these connections that I had with Islam. So it wasn't necessarily that I feel like I grew with Islam or grew into it. I don't feel like I just, you know, learned about it or decided, okay, this is the religion that's right for me. I feel like, you know, from a very young age, I knew that I was Muslim, and I always had these connections with Islam. It wasn't until that I was older to like finally know and understand these different religions that I was like, okay, yeah, so this is right. This is what I truly believe in, and this is where my heart is and what I want to be. So.
And adding on to that, actually, what kind of moved me as a Muslim, or looking into Islam as a Christian that was looking into other faiths, was this idea of fitra, which means something like original belief. So looking back at Christianity, and when I was learning more about the faith, I was like, okay, this kind of is starting to contradict with what I believe about God, you know, where I was always praying, you know, when I prayed at night as a child, you know, I'd pray to God. And my grandma told me, you know, pray to God and certain prayers, and rarely did we mention Jesus or something like that, any sort of reference to the Trinity. So it was very simple, and when I learned more about Christianity, I felt that it was distancing me from God in a way. And when I was researching about Islam, it was so simple and something that seemed like it was already there to begin with, that it was part of fitra, that concept of original belief, that you are born with a natural inclination to believe in one God, to be monotheistic. And Islam, I think, is the purest expression of monotheism. So.
I guess my question is directed primarily toward Ibrahim. I was struck by when you were describing yourself, that in searching for your own identity, you've been exploring other cultures and other religions, which is not true of everyone, not actively at least. You're also a member not only of the KU Muslim Association, but of the local Islamic Center.
Right.
Most people from the outside probably think of the Islamic Center as a homogeneous group, where in fact, my understanding is that it's an extremely heterogeneous group with students from overseas, local business folks who have been here for a long time and are older, a wide range of people. What has been your experience of sharing in that?
In the Islamic Center of Florence, it was really interesting and an eye-opening experience, because where I grew up, the society I lived in, we're kind of the same. You know, we grew up Muslims, and you know, there's certain things we do and that we practice, and we just go home. Here in the Islamic Center of Florence, the fact that I've been exposed to, you know, we've always learned in school, okay, the Muslims are all over the world. You know, the Muslims are in the Middle East, in the Southeast Asia, where the majority of the Muslim populations are. And then there are Muslims in Europe and Muslims in the US and stuff like that. So Islam is a religion that, you know, in every corner of the world you'll find Muslims. But I never felt that until actually I became a member of the Islamic Center of Florence here. Because coming from a Muslim country and then dealing with Muslims who grew up here or converted to Islam made me think that, okay, there's a big separation between culture and religion. And that's one of the things that, you know, struck me and started, you know, make me start questioning. You know, it's like, okay, what is Islam? How am I a Muslim? And then start going to the cores and the basics of things. You know, like, okay, this is cultural, which is not necessarily agree or disagree with Islam, but you know, certain things are done because, you know, this is what Islam is asking for. And I noticed that, you know, everybody in the Islamic Center is doing it, while other things which I later knew that, you know, it's cultural. It's not practiced there because, you know, it's cultural. The culture here, it's different. It's Islamic Center in the U.S., so the American culture is there, you know, but the religion is what, you know, what makes all of us come and be there together. So that being a member of the Islamic Center really helped me to understand what is the difference and clearly separate the difference between culture and religion. And every time I go back to visit my friends and family, when my parents ask me to do certain things, I tell them, okay, you got to know this is a cultural thing, this is not religion. If you want proof, here's the Quran, here's the sayings of the Prophet that says that this is the religion, and you're asking for is obviously not based on Islam, it's just more as a culture. And I thought, to me, it was very important to understand that. So I hope that answers your question.
So I feel that one of the major questions that I see often in American media is whether or not Islam is compatible with democracy. And often in American media, the Middle East is a region that is characterized as being governed by either military dictatorships or monarchies with Sharia law or whatever. However, there are two cases that fail to receive the attention that they deserve, and this is Azerbaijan and Turkey. And this question is for anybody willing to answer, particularly for Mr. Sambaluk. I hope I pronounced that right. But I was wondering if you could speak on what are the factors that have contributed to the sustainability of democracy in Islamic societies such as Azerbaijan and Turkey.
I have just one brief interjection on that question, but I feel like there should be more clarification, or at least more interjection on it as well. But you have to kind of separate government and how a society is ran from the religion. Yes, in Islam there are certain things that you're supposed to do while practicing that particular religion. But at the same time, if you look at the U.S., the majority of people here are Christians, and the country isn't necessarily run on the merits of Christianity. So like, yes, you have these majority Muslim countries, but they're not always necessarily run under the merits of Islam. So yeah, you have some things that are outside of Islam, and you have some things that don't necessarily agree with our religion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's something that's a part of it, and that's something that Islam condones.
And even if the country like says, okay, we follow Sharia and everything like that, like, is it really Sharia? A lot of people don't even know what it is, so they just take it as the media says. So really it takes some investigation yourself into history and things like that. Because dictators and bad governments, they happen all over the world, not necessarily in Muslim countries.
I think I'd certainly echo what Aisha and Garrett have pointed out, that there are these cultural factors that I think certainly do encourage a lot of different kind of approaches to governance and society. I think that is why we kind of see particular emphasis on things like democracy in Turkey and Azerbaijan.
Actually, an interesting thing, I kind of like to follow up in things happening in Egypt. There are a lot of things going on there. And one of the interesting YouTube videos, it was a very simple video, and it was saying, comparing, okay, is there something called an Islamic country? And if there is, what is it? And is it democracy or not? Is it dictatorship or not? And it's just kind of briefly go through, what classifies a country as democratic, having democracy or dictatorship or not. And then at the end of the video, they went, okay, let's go now and see, the Islamic country, or the country that you can say having Islamic ruling. Basically, the video, it's a very brief video, and I'm not sure if it brings all the details, but it says a leader of a country or society of any group basically has to be elected by the people, and the constitution that he has to follow is the Quran and the Sunnah, which is the practices and the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And after he's done, let's say 4 years, 5 years, he goes through like a parliament. They check if he of all his time, 4 years, 5 years, if he has done his duties as a leader for the people. Did he fulfill the requirements and required in the Quran and Sunnah? To make sure all the rights for our people are granted, no conflict, stuff like that happened. So it's a thorough process. Like you're not only elected, but you're checked after that, and your things have to be make sure that you follow the Quran and the Sunnah. So I can refer you to Mansour. He's sitting in the back. He's a law student, PhD law student here, but he has a very thorough understanding, knowledge of Sharia, and he can probably give you a better idea of what leadership in Islam might be look like.
We've got a question up here.
I have a question for you, sir, and then you two over here. I'd like to start with you. Actually, I'll end with you, sir. I'd like to start with you. Not according to the importance of the question. Starting with you, I'd like to know, after you became Muslim, what did your parents specifically see in you that changed, whether it be characteristics or actions you do that they were fond of or very interested in? And for you, sister, unfortunately, in this world, we have racism. So I wanted to know, when you became involved in the community, did you feel like you were an outsider at all when you were around specifically Arabs? And then for you, sir, my question is... I'm
reminded by our director that I can't allow 3 questions.
Can we ask you after the... Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, so positive thing that my family saw in me, some positive change. Well, first of all, my parents' first reaction was one of fear, of course. My mom was like, okay, you're brainwashed, and my dad is like, another story. But at least with my mom, like when she made the effort to listen to me and hear about what Islam is, she actually really respected that way of life and the beliefs and everything like that. So the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and things that she would hear, particularly about Muslim women or something like that, and the commandment of equality, you know, between them, you know, before God, she really admired, especially like the sayings like paradise is at the feet of the mothers, you know, or who is most worthy of your respect, your mother, and that's repeated 3 times before respect is due to your father. And like personally for me, as a Muslim, I try to be there for my mom more often, you know, visiting her more often. I'm only 5 hours away, and before, you know, it was really bad of me, you know, that, you know, I could have visited her many more times, you know, and I never made the effort. And as a Muslim, you know, I try to make that extra effort to be with her and my family in general, and with my father as well, you know, even though we really clash when it comes to religion, I think our relationship has only grown stronger, which I hope he sees, you know, and he notices that, you know, that I treat him with more respect, and when he's visiting in Lawrence, you know, that I'm there, you know, I offer, oh, you can stay at my apartment and everything, and, you know, I'll cook breakfast for you, things like that, you know, just small things like that, and I think that makes a difference, you know.
All right. As far as the racism thing goes, I feel like there's none whatsoever. I am actually very, very involved in the community and very, very close to a lot of the Arab women here. I love them all dearly. Like they're like my sisters. I'm blushing right now because I love them all so much, and I don't feel like my race kind of interferes with how we interact with each other, or they think any less of me because of my race. In all honesty, I feel like I'm more comfortable with them, with my race. I don't feel like that's an issue. I don't feel like that's something that comes up, whereas, you know, outside, sometimes I feel like that might be an issue. But with them, it's not an issue at all.
Men seem to adapt so much quickly with their dress. Why do the Muslim women choose to continue to dress as they do, and explain to us why you do?
Okay. Well, Muslim women continue to dress the way that they do, wearing hijab and modest clothing, because we feel that it's something that God has asked us to do to preserve our modesty and to ensure that we aren't, you know, suffering any annoyances. And also, I feel like hijab is more than just covering. I was speaking about this earlier, and talking about hijab is, you know, about manners. It's about the way you behave and interact with other people, and that goes along with preserving your modesty, and it kind of protects you from certain things, because it makes you more aware of your atmosphere and more aware of what's going on around you. So someone once said that, you know, covering your head was a manifestation or a way of oppressing women and suppressing intellect. But I feel like it's a manifestation of intellect, because I feel like you become more aware and you step back and you just, like, things are put in more perspective and you kind of analyze, like, what's really important. And it just helps you grow and develop and strengthen your iman, your faith, and you just kind of, you're less worried about these worldly things or these things like materialistic or you know, your looks and things like that. And it also makes you build your critical thinking skills, because you're always questioning the things around you, and you're not just you know, stuck following what everyone else is doing, because you're so, well, at least for me, because, you know, it's not the norm here in the US, so I'm constantly analyzing things, and it just kind of helps me, you know, being humble and, like, not judging other people, because I know that, you know, other people are probably judging me, and so, yeah.
And just to, I think you said like how the men adapt also, like why do they change their dress so quickly like when they come over here? Just to clarify, like there's, like specifically for men, like we're not required to wear like big long flowing gowns or anything like that. That has been associated with, I think with Islam because of the news and everything. But that's mostly of a cultural nature. So like in Saudi Arabia, they have a certain traditional dress, which is just as different as the traditional dress that they wear in Pakistan. So a Pakistani Muslim is going to be dressing differently if he chooses to stay with his traditional clothes when he comes over to the States. So in that sense, it's a bit easier for a Muslim man to adapt because it's not against that man's religion to, you know, dress with a button-down T-shirt and a tie and everything, and actually for a woman as well too, the same thing, except perhaps she chooses to wear the headscarf, and as long as the clothing preserves that man or woman's self-respect and piety, then it's something good to wear. So.
Yeah, I had a question about the aspects of the religion. Like, I know all of you have a different perspective on what Islam means to you, but are there different aspects that you don't necessarily agree with and that you choose to refrain from participating in the religion?
I wouldn't say there's anything that I disagree with and wouldn't participate in.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that either. Perhaps there's certain things that I have a different opinion on.
Yeah.
So like, for example, like Aisha eats only zabiha meat, whereas in my opinion, you know, through my own research and things like that, I've decided that it's not necessary to eat zabiha, which means I can eat meat as long as it's been slaughtered by a Christian or a Jew. So people of the book, basically, whatever meat is good for them as long as it's not pork is fine with me. So among my Muslim friends, we run into small differences like this. But I think it's minor, and I don't think we have many big differences, you know.
And just to clarify, when he says research, and my research, his research, my research, in Islam, it's cut clear from the very beginning that, you know, we take things from the Quran and the practice of the Prophet. So, for example, the major things like the belief in one God, the belief in the Judgment Day, the way that we pray 5 times a day, the number of rak'ahs each prayer is. No two Muslims on earth will differ in that, because it's just cut clear. The things that he talked about, the zabiha or halal meat, for example, it's a minor thing that scholars themselves, you know, based on their education, based on their research, they also differed based on the interpretations of the Prophet's sayings. So some said, okay, this saying might mean this, that, you know, you can eat only zabiha. While other scholars will say, well, if you take the word meaning such and such, it allows Muslims to eat also meat, food from non-Muslims like Christians and Jews. So, but we always go back to the Quran and Sunnah. I mean, no matter what minor or major thing, we always ask, okay, what's the verse, and what's the saying of the Prophet. There's none a scholar in the 1400 years since the Prophet came until now that somebody made something from his own opinion, because people since the Prophet came until now, people always question, is it referenced? And if it is, then show me the verse. So.
Yeah, I remember hearing the story of another convert to Islam, and when he was first asking about Islam, he was saying, what do you believe about this, and why do you do that, and everything like that. And the Muslim man he was talking to kept on referring to verses in the Quran or sayings of the Prophet, and he's like, why don't you have any of your own opinions and everything? And he said, how can I have opinion when God has commanded me this, or when he says this is best for you, and God knows what's best for you, you know. So we kind of go on that principle, and we go back to the Quran and Sunnah. It's not our own opinions. You know, we don't change the religion according to our whims and desires. You know, like we decide on what is right in our lives because we think it's correct. We think like this opinion is the best opinion, and it's usually going to be minor things like the dietary aspect of Islam.
So we might have time for 2 more.
This is a harmonious talk tonight, but I'm still curious about what are the things you feel uncomfortable about being a Muslim in the States. I have this question because I met a Muslim lady. She and I was in the same class last semester, but recently I heard that she wasn't very happy about the score she gets from the class, so she went to a bargain with the professor but failed. Then she asked her the scores about other international students. She found that she said all of us have a higher score than her, so she concluded that the professor was discriminated on her. I feel sorry about the conclusion because the Muslim lady, she has one book published during the semester, so she may bring some homemade food to the class. That was awesome. And in the other side, the professor, she's one of the most liberal person I met in the States. So, yeah, that's why I'm curious about what's the things make you feel uncomfortable being a Muslim here.
I feel like the things that make me feel uncomfortable is probably the political atmosphere right now, and the things that the media are saying about Islam and how Muslims are depicted, because it doesn't give us a good light. And I feel like people who don't really know any better, and that's all they know about Islam and Muslims, that's what they're going to get, and that's what they're going to associate with me and all the other Muslims. Also, another thing I guess I feel uncomfortable with is, being a Muslim woman who decides to cover, because that's something in this society that is highly criticized. I started covering a little over a year ago. September is actually my anniversary of, deciding to put on hijab. And I put it on, and there were a couple of people that were just like, you don't have to wear that. You shouldn't be doing that. Like, why are you doing that? My friend who just started covering, there was an incident where someone came to her and was like, why are you putting that on? Is someone making you doing it? They're making you, and she talked about how she was in MSA, and she's like, oh, it's because of them, they're making you do that. So that's one of the things that makes me feel uncomfortable, is when people are critical and saying that I'm covering because someone else is doing it, or telling me that I don't have to do it, and kind of basically judging my reasons for doing it, or kind of associating that with being oppressed. And also, like, I'm very active in like everything, and I'm very much a leader in so many organizations, and a lot of people, they see that, and sometimes it's I know some people don't know any better, and it's the whole thing about oppression and women in Islam, but a lot of people, like, they're shocked that I do some of the things that I do, or that I have the position that I have, or I have the status, because of this idea that women are oppressed. And that's something that bothers me, and that's something that I'm trying to, like, contribute to getting rid of, that stereotype of women being oppressed, and this idea that wearing hijab is a bad thing, or it's something that is irrelevant to this time period, or it's something that's oppressive to women.
One last question right
here. This is for Ibra. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
How do you feel personally about Israel?
Israel?
Israel.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a big topic. I mean, this needs a panel by itself. So I don't know if I can
We got a
answer
good
that.
30 seconds.
Okay, good 30 seconds, I can say. The way I personally look at it, I am a Palestinian, and I feel very strong towards my land, not because it's only Palestine, but it's because, you know, the religious value, not only to me, but to the Jewish community and the Christian community. I feel that people everywhere in the world have the right to live and choose the places they want to, not to be forced to move, to be moved from anywhere in the world. So the fact in Palestine or any other place, if you move people by force or something, I mean, by nature will create some conflicts. Especially if certain communities are tied to this land for a religious reason, then the essence of religion asks for peace. You know, then I believe that, you know, if the Christians and Jews and the Muslims just decided to live there peacefully, I mean, I don't see any problem. The problem is, for some reason, they don't agree on that. Like, I have Palestinians who are Jews, friends. I have Palestinians who are Christians, and we are tied to the land. And I talk to Israel. I have a lot of Israelis who are also friends, and they agree with me. You know, they're like, you know, that this land should not be like this. You know, in like the bloodshed and stuff like that. This land is a land for all religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And it's the land for peace. All of us should be able to go to Jerusalem and practice. All of us should be able to sit and communicate. That's one of the things that when I came to America and talked to these people, it gave me a different perspective. You know, before I was like, no, I'm not going to accept any other idea. Now I talk to and see the other side and see what they think, and we have really common ground. You know, like, okay, things for peace, that, you know, religion is asking for peace, and we should actually promote that, and we should actually encourage that and make that important. Because what brings conflict and blood and fight is not religion. It's more, what do they call the minorities people? It's the people who just take things in a closed mind way, that, you know, just start fueling any conflict.
Please join us in thanking our panel here for tonight.